All right, we're back. Thanks for riding with us this morning. You're listening to America's Voice Now. My name is Mike Evans. I'm your host. You know, the push is on now by the president and the Democrats in the House and the Senate for another massive violation of everything that most Americans apparently these days, I don't know. I want to say that most Americans are outraged, but the propaganda is so heavy to get immigration through. And I think most people are, they want to be helpful. They want to be kind. They want to be considerate. They want to be generous. But like the episode, the last episode in which I talked about your child who is abusing the privilege of having a family credit card for while they're away at college, sometimes you just got to call a halt. Now, on yesterday, Obama took to the podium at the White House and he announced that the government shutdown was over. He was trumpeting his victory, or what he classifies as victory. Then he immediately announced that he was going to push on these other legislative priorities that he wanted to get through. And the number one that he's got out there right now, the other legacy he wants to leave. And by the way, for the record, I'm tired of these people who are president who are more interested in their legacy than they are. You know what, Mr. Obama? Nobody's going to really care after you're dead what you accomplished, other than the fact that they're going to look back in history and say, you decimated the United States of America. If that's the legacy you actually want, I don't know. I think that's a little self-destructive. But the number one push he's got right now that he's beaten the curs on the budget issue, is the immigration bill and the pork-laden farm bill. They've tried to get both of these through already. The Senate has passed an immigration bill which would knock most Americans for a loop if they really knew what was in it. Not only is there tons of pork and earmarks in there, including Harry Reid, who got this through the Senate, but he added in there for some unknown reason, and I'm not quite sure what this has to do with immigration, a $100 million payment to the casinos in Las Vegas, his home state. Really? I mean, explain to me, if you would, Mr. Reid, why you need $100 million of taxpayer money to subsidize the casinos in Vegas, who, for all intents and purposes, do a pretty good job of collecting the daily withdrawals already, don't they? The problem with the farm bill is a whole nother animal. The Senate has also passed some variation of that. And the number one complaint about the farm bill is the amount of pork that is in it. Ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about an unbelievable amount of spending that we definitely cannot as a nation sustain. The number one problem with the farm bill is not that, look, the farm subsidies and all that kind of thing, everybody knows that stuff's over the top. But what most Americans don't know is that 80% of the farm bill and the amount that they'd put forth as the farm bill originally was, I think, $800 billion. For 80% of that to be attributable to food stamps. Wow. You mean to tell me you need some $600 billion for food stamps? Does that mean that The federal government's intending to put a Walmart in every town, village, and square and hand out free food from now until the end of days. I mean, for $600 billion, you can buy an awful lot of food. I got to wonder, if you take into account the recipients of actual food stamps, the total number of people who actually receive food stamps, it's actually, the recipients themselves is 48 million. Okay? So if you take, and boy, I'm going to have to do this on a calculator because my math ain't that good. I will do this for you during the course of this, so bear with me if I get distracted. If you take $600 billion, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you divide that, somebody else who's faster with math, help me with this, and you divide that by 50 million, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that's $12,000 per recipient in a year. Are we saying that we're going to give every food stamp recipient $12,000 worth of food? I mean, that's $1,000 a month. I don't get it. If you don't buy the food in your house, I encourage you to ask your significant other or whoever does, on average, what's our food bill look like for the month? And I'll bet you money it ain't anywhere near $1,000 a month. I mean, unless you're eating caviar and T-bone steaks every night, you're not spending $1,000 a month on a food bill. And these are people who are supposed to be destitute. So with all due respect, they're not supposed to be eating T-bone. I don't have a problem helping people. But like I used the reference of the student in college at our earlier segment, I do have a problem in being taken for a ride. And I can also tell you that based on the experience that we as a nation have had over the past, 50 or 60 years, $600 billion divided among the 50 million people would theoretically tell us that we're looking at $12,000 per family, right? Well, here's the problem with that. The number of dollars that the recipients get will be much, much smaller than that. Because like a charity whose senior management is skimming from the top, the federal government will use this money in fraudulent, wasteful, and abusive ways. And I bet you that you'll be lucky to see every food stamp recipient get closer to $3,000 or $4,000 instead of $12,000. We can't account for the spending we have now. I certainly don't trust Congress, and I certainly do not trust the Health and Human Services and the USDA to administer a $600 billion program. I mean, think about it, folks. That's almost the size of the entire TARP bailout where we bailed out the banks. It's inconceivable that the government could want to spend this kind of money. It's also inconceivable that we don't force them to say, this has got to be broken up into individual bills. This idea of the omnibus and the comprehensive, anytime you hear the word comprehensive and omnibus, know that basically you're getting the shaft. If they use those words, it's a comprehensive farm bill. It's a comprehensive overhaul of immigration. We're going to do a comprehensive overhaul of the banking and the fiscal system in the country. Count on one thing. There is going to be pork. The thing is going to be awash in pork, floating on a sea of it, number one. And number two, they're going to shove in a couple of tasty little unconstitutional tidbits that stiff you for rights and under the Bill of Rights somehow, some way. You're limited, you're reduced, you're degraded. This is the nature of Washington. Also, by the way, happens to be the nature of your state assembly. So it should be, and in some states it is, you have to have every bill as a standalone item. You can't sit there and take 9 things and shove them together, or 39 things, or 309 things like they did in the healthcare bill, and shove them all together and then get them passed as a bundled block where nobody's read it. They're doing it right now for immigration. They just did it on the budget. They're going to do it for this farm bill. They did it in healthcare. And look at the mangled debacle we have. I get the fact that Americans feel powerless and helpless to stop the inevitable onslaught of this. I mean, it's like standing there watching a mudslide 20, 30 feet high coming at you down the mountainside. And it's not moving very fast. You know, it's like lava flow, right? You're standing there and you're watching this lava coming at you, and it's kind of oozing and working its way, and it's moving slowly, but it's inexorable, and there's no stopping it. And it hits a tree, and you think, well, the tree will hold it back, and the tree bursts into flame. And then it hits a house, and you think, well, it won't be able to get around that house. And sure as shooting, doesn't it just go right over the roof of the house? And next thing you know, the house is completely buried and on fire. And you stand there and you watch it, and you're helpless to stop its forward progress. You can't put anything in front of it. There's nothing you can do. You know, you could stand there with a hose and you could spray it down in the hopes that you can cool it and it'll harden and it won't. But it's futile. I understand. I get the fact that most Americans feel like they're sitting there trying to hold back a lava flow with a garden sprinkler. But I want to encourage you because, you know, if it wasn't just you standing there with the hose, but if you had literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds or thousands of your neighbors standing there side by side with you, and we were all spraying the face of the lava, we would be able to achieve what one person can never do. Because collectively, it's not just, you know, you're a little sprinkle of water. Collectively, and as community organizations and as individual groups bond together in grassroots efforts, we become a group of fire hoses. And we can make a difference. Personally, I believe that the only way that we can actually make a difference at this point is to utilize the principles of massive peaceful civil disobedience. And I say that because we've tried everything else. We've tried to vote them out. It takes too long between elections. American population's got a short span. There's voter fraud that's so rampant in our system, we don't even realize the depths to which it's sunk. The powers of corporations and money who are funding these campaigns can, spend such amounts of money that it's inconceivable that you can avoid being brainwashed into thinking a candidate's something he's not. And those candidates who want to stand up and become that sole figure of ethic and morality, who think, you know what, I'm going to go there and I'm going to do a good job. They're burned to a crisp in a flamethrower of money from corporations and massive individuals of massive wealth like George Soros and that kind of crowd. You don't stand a chance when they're funding the guy who you're running against with literally tens of millions of dollars, and you're trying to scrape pennies together, putting dollar bills in hats at a county fair. I mean, really, I get it. So we've tried the electoral route, and we routinely get trounced. 80% of all candidates get reelected again. It's actually higher than that. It's 86%. 86% of all of these people who are in Congress right now are going to get reelected again. I mean, you got to be kidding me. Well, 5% of them don't get reelected because they retire. Are you trying to tell me that only 10% of the 535 monsters who are running this country are going to get reelected, are going to get overturned in their election, but the other, for all intents and purposes, 90%, if you want to look at it that way, are going to get reelected? We can't do it with the election system. I believe we're beyond that point. I believe things have gotten so far out of control. We are so restricted. We are so tied down. We are so oppressed that, quite frankly, the only way for us to really accomplish this is to utilize the principles of massive, peaceful civil disobedience. And that can take a lot of forms, folks, but you're going to have to be prepared to be uncomfortable and frightened and fearful and terrified and hungry and cold and wet. Stop buying. Spend no money, and I mean no money. If we starve the beast financially, it can't continue. It lives on your life's blood of money. Without it, it has nothing. That's why it's so dangerous that the Congress has given this president an open checkbook, because with unlimited amounts of money, he can do unlimited damage to us. But you can also take little steps. You can refuse to sign up for Obamacare. Make the thing collapse on its own. We don't need Congress to defund it. We can defund it. Just don't participate. You can participate in this effort by not accepting the federal handout and becoming dependent upon it. I get it, it's tough. I get it, it's rough out there. I get it, the economy is awful. But you have an obligation to be a part of the solution, not a part of the problem. If you're wealthy, don't take Medicare. I mean, really. I earned it. I get it. Is your country not worth you doing something to help? I mean, where is your personal line of discomfort that you're not willing to step up to the plate and help us? Help all of us as a nation. Where's your personal sacrifice? Every one of us is going to have one. And I got to tell you, if we're not willing to step up and personally sacrifice to bring this thing back to some semblance of rationality, you're going to sacrifice, but I'm telling you, it's not going to be willingly. If you don't believe me, go look at Greece. Go look at Spain. Go look at Italy. Go look at the countries. Go look at Ecuador. Go look at Brazil. Look at the countries that right now are socialistic in their governments or worse and are having economic difficulty. Their inflation rates are through the roof. Their populations are suffering. If you think that, you're just going to wait this out and preserve what's yours, I got to tell you, I think in the end of the day, you're going to find you're wrong. And I think it's incumbent on every one of us to say, I would rather suffer a little today than to lose our nation and suffer inconceivably tomorrow. You've been listening to America's Voice Now. Thanks for joining with us today. Hope to see you on Monday. You can find us on the web by visiting us at americasvoicenow.org. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/America's Voice Now. And then you can also catch every program that we do on YouTube on our channel there. You can go to youtube.com/America's Voice Now. We appreciate you spending your morning with us. Thank you very much. Like our Facebook page. That helps us to spread the word to other folks. Like our videos. Comment on them if you like. Share them with your friends. That's what's most important. Share this information with your friends. Be a leader in your circle of influence. I don't care if it's one person or 300 or 3,000. Be a leader in your circle of influence. God bless you. Have a great day. We'll see you on Monday.